committed medical misinformation. And I must admit that I did. I got some things back to front when I was sharing them. I didn't actually calculate anything wrong. I just said some things in the wrong order. So that's good that YouTube is actually quite sensitive in that regard. So we better do this again. I'm going to try and make it, it's going to be quicker, it's going to be easier to follow, it'll be better and funnier because I'm better and funnier than since I last made the video about this, about the Bill Gates trial. I like this one because this is what I found when I was going on a big adventure to learn about all that the culture has developed in terms of data to convince itself that this is a worthwhile enterprise, this vaccination. So this was the trial that stuck out to me for being a demonstration of herd immunity for vaccination. It was found on Google, purported to be a report of a successful vaccination trial run in India, and if you look into it, you can see the link there. Now you'll find that this was sponsored, directed probably, I'm not sure what the word is, but Bill Gates was basically, this is the fruits of his endeavor for altruism in developing countries. I want to show everyone what a successful vaccination trial apparently looks like. Settle down, because it's just amazing to me. This is amazing that this has happened, that this is the kind of material I find. Straight up, I'll tell you that the reason it is a successful vaccination trial is because the group that didn't receive the typhoid vaccine had 150% more typhoid diagnoses than the group that did receive the typhoid vaccine. So that tells everyone that this vaccine works for herd immunity. Not only does it work, but apparently we have just demonstrated how effective herd immunity is. Whatever has happened here, let's take a look at why I'm making this video. Because out of all this data that we find in this trial, we are not told how many unvaccinated people died. We are only told how many vaccinated people died. We are not told much interesting at all. Like, I came along and I wanted to compare the rate of typhoid for the unvaccinated and the vaccinated. That to me was the most exciting comparison that I thought that I would find, that I could achieve. And when I went to find it, it wasn't there. As I say, all the data's there for anyone to calculate it. I had to calculate this data. And as I've found out, YouTube, I can actually go ahead and speak freely in a way that I couldn't have before, because I've got proof now that YouTube will stop me in my tracks if I say some things that aren't actually accurately what I'm saying that they are. So where I'm going with this is, I'm trying to remember, to be honest. I had to further calculate the most important things to me, which were, first of all, in all these clusters, there were about 80 of them, 60,000 people or 62,000 people. All these clusters were kept together so that every cluster was either vaccinated with this vaccine, the typhoid one, or a hepatitis one or the other. No cluster had members that had a hepatitis vaccine and other members that had a typhoid vaccine. Every cluster was either typhoid or hepatitis. And there's one big area in India, and as you'd imagine, They didn't just split the map and decide to vaccinate one half and not the other half. They equaled it all out. Ethnicities, toilet styles, all sorts of measures of demography and health. So what I went and found was there was a 0.18% typhoid rate in the typhoid vaccinated humans, and that was 38% higher than their unvaccinated herd members. So let's go back to the original claim that this is a successful vaccine because it works for herd immunity. Let's just note that if it did work for herd immunity, it seemed to work better for those who aren't vaccinated. I mean, if this vaccine works at all, it accidentally worked better for those who didn't receive it, or whatever that means. The fact is that when we look at the typhoid clusters, and that's as close as we can get for a comparison, because each different cluster might be slightly different and the end result is significantly confounded with some things that we didn't see. But if we forget about herd immunity and just like, hey, look, we've got a great opportunity here to analyze a vaccination experiment because we've got clusters of humans and only 60% of them were vaccinated, and we have strict monitoring of typhoid diagnosis data. And when we look at it, the vaccinated group in the typhoid group, they had a higher rate of typhoid than the unvaccinated herd members. That is to say, if the person was vaccinated throughout the trial, there's a 38% chance more that they're going to be diagnosed with typhoid. Let me say that again. If there was a typhoid vaccinated member that we are sampling from this trial and looking at their data, there is a 38% chance more that they are going to have been diagnosed with typhoid. So we could say that the typhoid, in retrospect, if we're just looking at the pure data, we would say that if we find a subject that has been vaccinated, there's a 38% chance more likely that they're going to have been diagnosed with typhoid. Anyway, I think we squared that off. In the hepatitis A vaccinated groups, there was a 108% higher rate of typhoid than the unvaccinated members of these clusters. I probably should say it again, although it's quite simple, that if we found a random sample of a subject from this trial, a random person, and we looked at their data, the fact is that there's a 108% chance more that they are going to have been diagnosed with typhoid. This does not look like a good vaccination experiment. It does not look successful, but apparently it is. This is why I'm sharing it. Why aren't we told how many unvaccinated people died? You can